As Vern said, my name is Josh Lamberg. I'm the CEO and founder of Lamb Insurance Services. I'm happy to share my leadership journey and how I use feedback with the group today. So Lamb Insurance Services is the nation's largest retail insurance broker dedicated exclusively to nonprofit and social service organizations. We're in the top 1/3 of 1% of insurance brokers in the nation. Said in another way, we're the top 100 privately held firms in a field of 30,000 competitors. So we've got 90 employees. I've got about a half a dozen offices across the country. We're $175 million in sales or gross written premiums. We've got over $16 million in revenue. I started the company May 1st, 2008, so we've done this in 10 years. We have zero net debt, and we've never made an acquisition. It's all been organic growth. So what I wanted to share with you today was my experiences that have led me to achieve this growth. As a child, the only thing I wanted to do was play Major League Baseball. I wound up spending some time in the minor leagues, but the only thing I wanted to do, I was a catcher, and I wanted to be a home run hitter in the big leagues. So I walked around and found anybody that would listen to me and asked, how's my swing? I'd carry a bat with me, I'd ask coaches, I'd ask older players, I'd take my swing with no bat and say, is there a hole in my swing? How is my swing technically? And I had success. I had success in high school, and I wound up with a scholarship at the University of Richmond. Now, at Richmond, freshmen have mandatory study hall. So we had 2 hours Monday through Thursday night that we had to spend in the Robins Center, their basketball arena. Now, I befriended somebody at Richmond. Sean Casey wound up spending 10 years in the major leagues, was a 3-time All-Star. The year before I was at Richmond, he had led the nation in hitting. So I spent 2 hours Monday through Thursday in the bottom of the Robins Center in the indoor batting cage taking batting practice with Sean. So we'd spend the first hour and a half just throwing BP to one another, and we'd spend the last half hour just talking strategy and theory about baseball. So for those of you that don't know, baseball is a game of failure. The best players fail 7 out of 10 times as a hitter. So what Sean and I would talk about, we established fundamentals of where my feet should be, where our hands were, and we talk about having a plan or strategy when we went to home plate. And what we found out, because it's such a game of failure, the most successful major league hitters focus on process rather than results, right? So if I could have my fundamentals right, I could have my hands and my swing right, I could take a strategy when I went up to home plate, put a great swing on the ball, but the outfielder could jump over the outfield wall and pull back my home run, and if I looked at just the results, right, that was an out. But if I focused on what I was in control of, my fundamentals and executing my strategy, I could see every at-bat as a success. So I had a great career at the University of Richmond. I wound up, as I said, I spent 3 or 4 seasons in the minor leagues. I got to play against some of my childhood heroes, and eventually, like everybody else that's not in the major leagues, I wound up selling insurance. So those are the experiences that led to kind of the 4 tenets that I've taken to growing my business. And the first one is go long. Vern mentioned that book, and it's, as a kid, I competed every day, and I wanted to get a hit 4 times up, but what I focused on was making it to the major leagues. And I took that how's my swing approach, and I've taken that in my business, and I don't make decisions based on making another couple of dollars of cash in that moment, but I invest in my enterprise value, and I invest in the long term and what's going to take my business to the major leagues. Right? Number 2 is be vulnerable. That 12-year-old kid, that went around and asked everybody, how's my swing, right? That was the most important thing I had, was my swing. That was what was going to take me to the big leagues. And I took that approach, and I was totally bare-chested and vulnerable with coaches and players, and I wanted as much feedback as I could get on how I could get that swing better, because that's what was going to make me successful in that long-term journey. The third thing was process-oriented. We all go to work every day and we compete, and we don't always control whether someone buys that product, but if we focus on our process, we can continue to improve our process. That should be 100% in our control. And I've taken that focus to my business. And finally, find someone better than you. So I've done that throughout my career. In high school, when I got to Richmond with Sean Casey, and I did it when I started my business. I was sitting in this conference 4 years ago. Before I was here, I searched my network, who was successful in business. I was 20 or 30 employees at the time, and I knew I had something good. And I said, man, it's more than it's more than a company of people that I can communicate with in one meeting. And I looked in my network, and a friend of mine, Ben Kirshner, spoke at the summit last year. Ben runs a great company, Elite SEM. They had scaled to several offices around the country, and I said, Ben, how are you doing it? You're as much a knucklehead as I am. How are you scaling this business? He turned me on to mastering the Rockefeller habits, and he said, you got to go down to the summit. So I was here 4 years ago, and the first time I was exposed to rock habits and then scaling up. Initially, I tried to self-implement. That was really laborious. Finally, I found my way to Freescale and great coaching. It's been about 2 years until everything really clicked. So we have morning huddles, weekly huddles, monthly meetings. I've got my quarterly meetings. I give an annual address to the company. We've got an amazing one-page plan, a 3-HAG and a B-HAG. And Rock Habits and scaling up, to me, has been like this present underneath the Christmas tree. You opened it up, and it was a ready-to-go process on how to take strategy and communication and implement it up and down my company. So now we've got 90 people. Everybody has a chance to get any major fires on my plate by 8:50 every morning. Our cascading huddles are done. And Rock Habits has really opened up and allowed us to scale. So as I was sitting here 4 years ago, people, when there were speakers up on stage, I tried to get one thing from everybody. I knew I couldn't capture everything. If there's one thing that you take away from me, it should be vulnerable, right? Everybody, as a CEO and a leader, we look to have the answers, but taking that approach, how's my swing, right? How's my swing? And we heard it from Tom Peters with what do you think? But it's as a leader, allowing yourself to be vulnerable to your team, right? And asking for that feedback on how to improve. That's the only way we can get better. And when you take that vulnerability in your approach every day, it becomes infectious with your group of leaders. And when you've got a whole company, right, asking how's my swing, how can we improve, it's really hard to stop you. Thanks for your time.